Rafael Santos didn't look like the kind of man who would shake a European empire. He wasn't loud. He didn't dress to intimidate. He didn't talk like a salesman. He was simply a Filipino engineer from Batangas, raised in the kind of home where money was tight, but dignity was non-negotiable. His father ran a small garage that smelled of oil, rust, and hard work. One of those places where you learn to respect tools because tools feed the family. As a boy, Raphael learned to tell the difference between a tired engine and a dying one the way other kids learn to tell the difference between rain and thunder. He learned that machines had moods, and that moods had reasons. When customers came in acting important, throwing big words around, his father would smile and say, "Engines don't care about titles, Anik. They only care about truth." That lesson became Raphael's backbone. Years later, after studying engineering and spending nights working on real engines instead of just reading theories, Raphael became known among local mechanics as the guy who could solve problems others avoided. Not by magic, by patience, humility, and listening like his life depended on it. The invitation from Germany landed on Raphael's email like a prank from heaven. A luxury automotive company, one whose cars were worshipped by executives and collectors, wanted him for a special technical collaboration. He read it 3 times, then showed his mother as if she could confirm it was real. His mother didn't know the company's name, but she understood the meaning of an open door. She packed him food like he was traveling across the country, not across continents, and told him to stay grounded. Raphael prayed the night before leaving, not for fame, but for steady hands and a clear mind. When he arrived in Germany, the world felt like it was made of glass and steel, cold, clean, and precise. Even the air seemed disciplined. At the facility, the welcome was polite, not warm. People nodded, smiled thinly, and returned to their screens. Raphael noticed the whispers, the quick looks, the subtle skepticism. A Filipino here? In this lab? He didn't take it personally. He knew the world liked to judge by accent and passport before skill. So he did what he always did. He listened more than he spoke, and he watched how the room truly worked. It didn't take long for Raphael to realize the lab wasn't powered only by innovation. It was powered by fear. Fear of missing a deadline, fear of investors, fear of being blamed, and fear, above all, of Heinrich Krüger, the company's legendary head, nicknamed the Iron Wolf of Stuttgart. Heinrich's reputation lived ahead of him like a shadow. People said his temper could end careers in a single sentence. They said engineers prepared presentations as if they were going to court. They said no one dared bring him a problem unless they already had a solution. The first time Raphael saw Heinrich in person, the man walked into the test bay like a storm given human shape. Tall, sharp-eyed, jaw-tight, moving with the confidence of someone who owned not just the company, but the atmosphere inside it. 3 senior engineers trailed him with tablets and graphs, speaking quickly, trying to impress him, try to keep him pleased. Raphael stood near the back, a visitor badge on his chest, quiet as a shadow. Heinrich didn't greet him. Heinrich didn't even look his way. And honestly, Raphael expected that. When you've lived around powerful men, you learn they often confuse silence with superiority. Then the prototype engine coughed. Not a normal cough. A metallic clank that sounded like a spoon hitting a cracked pot. A stutter. A harsh vibration. And then smoke curled upward. Thin at first, then thicker, like a warning turning into a threat. The entire room froze so suddenly, it was as if time had been yanked by the collar. Engineers stopped breathing. One technician's hand hovered over an emergency switch, but didn't move because everyone was waiting for Heinrich's reaction. Heinrich stared at the diagnostics, his face hard as steel, and the senior engineers began throwing theories into the air like people tossing buckets at a fire. Fuel injection? Software sync? Sensor error? Timing? Their words were technical but desperate, and Raphael could hear the empty fear hiding inside their confidence. He knew that sound in the engine the way you know a familiar voice calling your name in a crowd. It wasn't just error. It was a specific kind of wrongness. A heartbeat skipping, a hidden imbalance. Raphael stayed still at first because he understood politics. Step forward too quickly and people accuse you of showing off. But the engine coughed again, louder, and something inside him whispered, not loudly, but firmly, "This is why you're here." Raphael took one step forward, small, careful, respectful. It wasn't a dramatic move, but in that room, it felt like someone walked into a lion's cage. A senior engineer turned and hissed, "This is not your task." Raphael didn't argue. He simply focused. He watched the engine, listened to the irregular vibration, and felt the rhythm through the air. He thought of his father pressing fingers to an engine block and saying, "Listen before you speak. If you respect it, it will confess." Raphael moved closer to the frame, not touching yet, just listening with his whole body. Heinrich, still staring at the data, snapped, "Does anyone know what is causing that?" Silence answered him, thick and humiliating. Nobody wanted to be wrong in front of the Iron Wolf. That silence irritated Heinrich more than any failure, because it meant his people didn't have certainty. Then Heinrich's eyes finally landed on Raphael, and he studied him like a stranger entering a private kingdom. "Who are you?" he asked, not kindly, not cruelly, just dangerously curious. Raphael introduced himself with a slight bow and a calm voice. Heinrich nodded as if filing his name away, unimpressed, then turned back to the engine as it shuddered once more. Raphael didn't flinch, and that lack of fear, that simple steadiness, caught Heinrich's attention like a hook. Raphael placed his fingertips against the engine frame, light as a prayer, and closed his eyes for 1 second. The vibration traveled up his fingers, into his wrist, and into the part of his mind trained by years of necessity. He wasn't thinking about ego. He was thinking about truth. He opened his eyes and spoke gently, "Sir, it's not combustion. It's not ignition timing." A few engineers stiffened as if he had insulted them. Raphael continued, "The vibration is coming from deeper, crank assembly area." A technician muttered, "Impossible, because the crank assembly was supposed to be perfect, inspected, forged, and measured by machines." Raphael stayed calm. He stepped to the diagnostic screen and pointed to the pattern, a high-frequency tremor that kept repeating with a tiny irregularity. "It's misaligned," he said. The room went quieter than before. Heinrich's eyes narrowed. "How much?" Raphael took a breath. 8 microns, 0.008 millimeters. Someone actually laughed in disbelief, the kind of laugh that happens when fear has no other outlet. "No one can detect that by touch," a senior engineer said, almost offended. Raphael looked at him, not angry, not smug, just honest. "Back home, we don't always have perfect tools, so we learn to listen with our hands." That sentence landed like a stone dropped in still water. It wasn't just information. It was a mirror, showing them how comfort can make people lazy and how struggle can sharpen a person into something dangerous too. Heinrich stepped closer until he was right beside Raphael. Everyone expected an explosion. Instead, Heinrich said one word, "Show me." Raphael guided him, pointing to the vibration graph and explaining the rhythm like music, how a healthy engine sings evenly, and how this one stumbled. He touched the frame again, then asked Heinrich to place his hand where his had been. The Iron Wolf hesitated for the smallest moment, like a man swallowing pride, then did it. In that sterile room, a billionaire tycoon placed his palm on metal and listened like a student. The engine's irregular heartbeat pulsed beneath his skin, and Heinrich's expression changed, not into anger, but into shock. "How?" he whispered, because now he felt it too. Raphael didn't brag. He simply said, "Respect the machine. It tells you the truth." Heinrich turned toward his engineers. "Open it. Now." That command hit differently than his usual orders. It wasn't rage. It was urgency mixed with humility. When the lower casing was removed, they found it, a tiny imperfection that sensors hadn't flagged correctly because it sat right on the edge of tolerance, small enough to hide, big enough to destroy the prototype under stress. The German team stared as if the laws of their world had been rewritten. Heinrich lowered his head, silent for a long time, like a man who had just been corrected by reality itself. After the repair, something in the facility shifted. The air felt lighter, but more than that, the people felt different. Engineers who had avoided Raphael now approached him with honest curiosity, not forced politeness. Interns asked questions without fear of sounding ignorant. Technicians who once watched him like an outsider now treated him like a colleague. Heinrich, still intense, but changed, did something nobody expected. He shook Raphael's hand with real gratitude, not a corporate gesture. "You saved more than the engine," Heinrich said quietly. "You saved our timeline, maybe our reputation." Then he did something even bigger in front of everyone. Effective immediately, Heinrich announced, "We integrate his method into diagnostic training, not as folklore, as discipline." So people blinked like they thought they heard wrong. A method born from a small garage in Batangas was now going to sit inside one of Europe's most prestigious labs. Raphael didn't celebrate loudly. He stepped aside, breathed, and let gratitude wash through him like warm water. Not because he won, but because he knew what this meant for every Filipino who had ever walked into a room and been judged before speaking. In the quiet, he thought of his father's hands, scarred, hard-working, proud, and felt his throat tighten. The next morning, the company held a full engineering assembly. Heinrich stood at the podium, and when he spoke, there was no performance in his voice, only truth. He told them directly that arrogance kills innovation and that brilliance doesn't belong to one country. He didn't romanticize Raphael. He respected him. Then Heinrich offered Raphael a permanent position, top-tier salary, prestige, the kind of deal many people would accept without blinking. Raphael listened carefully because he understood the weight of that offer. But he also saw the faces back home. Young engineers with talent, but no access. Mechanics with skill, but no recognition. Students dreaming big in small rooms with shaky electricity. Raphael spoke with calm respect. "Sir, I'm honored, but I can't stay forever. I need to go home and build what built me. Hands, patience, skill, confidence. I want to teach." Heinrich didn't argue. He simply nodded, and in that nod was a quiet confession. He finally understood leadership isn't only about pushing people, it's about seeing them. Before Raphael left the facility, a group of interns gathered around him like he was carrying a secret map. "How do we learn that listening?" they asked. Raphael smiled. "Stop treating machines like enemies. Treat them like partners. And stop treating people like rank. Treat them like stories." When Raphael returned to the Philippines, he didn't come back acting like a celebrity. He came back acting like a man on assignment. He visited his father's old garage first, stood in the doorway, and breathed in the familiar smell that started everything. His father looked at him, then at his worn hands, and said nothing for a moment, because some pride is too big for words. Raphael later started a small training program in Batangas, inviting young mechanics, engineering students, and anyone hungry to learn. He taught them modern principles, yes, but also the philosophy that saved a German prototype. Listening, patience, humility, and precision. The story spread quietly, then loudly, because truth travels. People talked about the day a Filipino engineer humbled the Iron Wolf of Stuttgart, not by shouting, not by showing off, but by calmly touching an engine and hearing what others ignored. And here's the real twist. Heinrich also changed. Months later, he sent equipment donations and internship opportunities to Raphael's program, because humility had turned into action. That's how you know it was real. In the end, it wasn't just about a machine. It was about a world learning. Finally, that Filipinos aren't small because their country is an archipelago. They're strong because they've learned to build greatness from necessity, faith, family, and grit.